said that you better learn how to, figure out a way to make a living talking because you never shut up. Here I am.
You and I both.
And, I said to my mom, the fruit doesn't fall far from the tree. She didn't like that comment. All right, you're here to learn about Michael, not about me. Michael, and I'm going to make you force, put the mic right up there tight. So, good mic discipline. Just saying. You've literally been racing things since your feet could touch the pedal, even before they could touch the ground. In Glendale, as a matter of fact. Tell us how you went from, that young age, racing everybody that would line up against you to your NASCAR career now.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I've been racing since I was 3 years old. I started racing BMX bikes out here in Arizona, just across the street from Deer Valley Airport at Black Canyon there. It's kind of a funny story because this week, my family's out here with me. My wife and I are both here from Phoenix, and we have 3 children. And my son Trace is 5, and so we took him out to the BMX track and let him try it out for the first time. So it was a lot of fun, brought back some great memories, and yeah, it was fun to see my kid out there and riding on the racetrack, where I sort of got my start. So, but my story in a nutshell in racing is I've been racing, like you said, since I was a kid. I started out racing BMX bikes, and then I raced quads and dirt bikes and things like that in the desert. That sort of progressed into racing go-karts. I grew up racing go-karts in North Phoenix out here. And I did that for a very long time, pretty much racing every single weekend. And from the time I was about 10 or 11 years old, I sort of knew that I wanted to race professionally. It's what I wanted to do with my career. Everything around that has been geared towards me pursuing my dreams. And I've been very fortunate and very blessed to have been able to live that out and to have great opportunities to now race in NASCAR every weekend. And being one of 43 drivers is something that I don't take for granted. It's amazing. There's a lot of racers around the world that race at your local short track, your dirt track. I mean, just so many different classes and fields of racing. And to be at the highest level, to be a NASCAR driver is is something that's very special. It's very cool.
And I think NASCAR started running a PIR, 88, maybe? Something like that?
I don't know. I was only 4 years old.
Did you have a favorite NASCAR driver growing up?
I actually grew up watching open wheel cars, and when I went out to Phoenix, I went out there for the Indy cars, and that's...
You went to Manzanita, probably?
Yeah, the dirt racing is something that I never had an opportunity to do myself, but I always had family members that did. My Uncle Ray, he raced dirt cars for a long time, and then my cousin Jason, he races still around here. He ran Canyon last night, so I went out and watched a lot, but my background was really asphalt road racing, and so we'd go out for the IndyCar races, and I don't even think I came out to a NASCAR race growing up, and it's kind of a funny story. I feel
Cut
bad.
that from the tape.
Yeah. I feel bad saying that because they're like, who is your hero growing up? And I always throw out Michael Schumacher or Mario Andretti. They're like, whoa, wait, you're racing NASCAR. You're supposed to still, Dale Earnhardt. So, I got this kind of mixed background of road racing and open wheel and hacking to land in the NASCAR world, and thankful for it. It's great. I mean, it's definitely the toughest form of motorsports that you can be in. It's highly competitive, and it's a challenge every day.
As a lot of people that are in the spotlight, and like you said, being one of 43, that's kind of, even when you're not in the direct spotlight, there's still a lot of people looking at it. What's your life away from the track? Your family life? I know your relatives are in the car business and different things like that. Tell me what it's like away from the track, and tell me a little bit about your family.
So I'll tell you about my family. My wife and I have been together since we were 15, and we moved to North Carolina in 2004, pursuing my racing career, and we've been in North Carolina now for 10 years. We have 3 children, 5-year-old, 2, and 4 month, that is. So we have 2 still in diapers, and it's a madhouse for sure. And my wife, she's a great woman. She takes care of the 3 kids while I travel to a lot of the races. But a lot of the times we travel together. I have a motorhome, and we all load up and we head to the racetrack, and There's a lot of fun stories with that. If you could imagine, we've done about maybe, don't hold me to it, but probably about 150, 200,000 miles in the last, 6 or 7 years on the road. And there's a lot of fun. We enjoyed that time. There comes with some trials for sure, as you can imagine, loading up 3 kids and going on the road and driving 10 hours at a time. But we're very fortunate to be able to do that. On the race weekends that are too far to just make it to, when we go from, all the way from North Carolina to California and back and forth, I'll go to those races myself and fly out. And so that's pretty much what the race life looks like. And as far as my family goes, my brother and my dad are still here in Phoenix, and they one works at Midway Chevrolet and one works at Peoria Ford, and so they're competing, and it's awesome. And they haven't always been in the car business. It's something that just kind of happened naturally for them. And so it's fun to come back home. It comes with some stress too. We got a lot of things going on. You're trying to see everybody, and my wife's family's from out here. And so immediately following this, we have a photo shoot with all of our family, which is going to be all the grandkids, all the cousins, everybody together. And so that's probably going to be the highlight of my day. That's going to be a lot of fun to see how they orchestrate all that.
Well, and I was just going to say, how do you focus? There's so many things on race weekend going on, but you're home, and you just alluded to that. How do you turn all that off, crawling into the car and out, because there is no split-second non-concentration moment?
Yeah, it's kind of there's 2 different sort of programming, I call it. And you have everything that leads up to the race, and then you have the race. And when you get into the race car, everything just shuts off. That's all you're thinking about. And so leading up into that point, there's some preparation. You're going through your notes, and you're going through track history and things like that. But it doesn't require 100% focus until you're in the race car. And that's the great thing about being in the race car is you're there by yourself, and your level of concentration is so high that you're not thinking about anything else. You're just
we were talking about preparation. I've got a race. Do we have any race geeks here? No, I'm sure we've got that. What is this shortcut passing lane at PIR? Are you aware of it?
It's not really a shortcut passing lane.
That is the nuttiest thing I've ever heard. How fast are you going if you choose to make that corner?
Yeah.
And if you don't know what I'm talking about, you basically come off the bank, you go across the yellow line.
The dog leg.
The dog leg there. Oh my goodness. How fast are you hitting that at?
I'm not sure. It's probably about 150 or so. Phoenix International Raceway, they did a reconfiguration about, 4 years ago now. It's probably 4 years ago. And they widened it in some areas, and they moved the corner, and they moved the dog leg in particular. And then they paved this huge spot that used to be grass. As you guys see at a lot of the racetracks, when our cars get in the grass, it's just not good. It explodes the front end, and they just dig in. And so they paved all the inside there, and like any good race car driver, they're like, well, hey,
shortcut.
There's an opportunity here to take advantage. And so in the race, you'll see a lot of that. It's definitely a high risk down there. It's real dirty here, obviously. We're in Arizona, so you got the desert, and out there, you're literally in the middle of the desert. You're in a little valley there. And so it gets real dusty down there. So you're definitely playing with fire when you go down there, but you try to use it when you can and when you have to, and you'll see it on the restarts. But Phoenix is a cool race. It's a good race. It's one of those races that I feel like still puts on a really good show. And there's not moments where you're getting away from the TV or getting away from your seat, because there's always action happening.
Absolutely. I left the race early a few years back.
You never want to do that. That's when everything breaks out.
Michael, you drive the K-Love car, you drive the Thrivent car. Tell me about your faith journey and how that plays into not only your everyday life, but your profession.
Yeah, I can give you the abbreviated version. I grew up here in the Valley, and going to church wasn't something we did as a family. It wasn't. I grew up in a great home. My mom and dad are great parents. There was, no traumatic things that happened in my life. A lot of people have those crazy stories of just a hard, upbringing. But I had a great upbringing. But church wasn't a part of that, and I don't think there was a Bible in our house actually. But for me, it wasn't until I was a young adult. I was about 16, 17 years old, and just kind of running my life and trying to move up in the motorsports world. And At the time, you know, that's all I focused about, all I cared about was how was I going to get to the next step, the next step, the next step. To make it in motorsports, it's very cutthroat sport. It's unlike any other sport. You know, stick and ball sports, if, you know, I'll give you an example. If you can throw a 100-mile-an-hour fastball in high school, there's a good chance you're going to keep progressing and keep moving on. You'll get a scholarship, you'll go play, you know, AAA. If you can still keep that consistency up and throw that ball hard, you're going to move up the ranks. And in racing, it's not like that. In racing, there's nothing that can judge your performance because your performance is directly related to how good your car is, how good your pit crew is, your motor, your tires, and all those things cost a lot of money, and you need sponsors to be able to show your ability. So it's unlike other sports. So I had to work extremely hard at networking and finding sponsors and moving up those ranks. And as I was doing that, I met two individuals. One was Ron Huber. He was here locally in Scottsdale. And the other one was Tom Barnett, who's local here in Phoenix. And I worked for those guys. I actually did a lot of driver coaching. So I was an instructor for them and would take them out to the go-kart track and the racetrack and set up cones and show them, here, this is where you got to drive, this is what you got to do. And it was just something that allowed me to sort of fund my racing career as I was moving up. And those guys were just great men of faith, and I didn't know that at the time, but I knew that there was something different about them. And just the way that they handled their you know, their day-to-day interactions, their family, and just they were just very loving, very giving, very generous people, and they were also successful. And that was probably the thing at the time that really drew me to them, was like, hey, these people are successful, so how can I use them to get to the next level? Because that's all I was focusing on. And when I just saw how they lived their lives and how generous they were, it just really started making me question who I was as a person and who I wanted to be. And one of those individuals, Ron Huber, we were at the go-kart track, and he was on a Segway. And you know those little scooters where you mall cop, you guys see mall cop, you lean forward, lean back, and he hit a rock and hit his head, and he passed away a couple days after that. And at his funeral, you know, Tom Barnett, the other gentleman I mentioned to you, came up to me and just asked me if I thought Ron was in heaven. Wow. And that was a question that I didn't know how to answer because, like I said, I didn't grow up in the church. You know, I've probably seen one or two Christmas stories, but as a kid, I never put it together. I never really thought about it that much. My perception of heaven was, you guys seen that movie, All Dogs Go to Heaven, or whatever it is? So it's like puffy clouds, and there's these gates and all these things. And I told him, I said, well, Ron was a good guy. I'm sure he's in heaven. And you know, he quickly responded and said, well, what if I told you had nothing to do with being a good guy? And then he just challenged me of where I was at. And he didn't particularly ask, if you die, where are you at? He just said, hey, where are you at? And God used that question over the next few weeks just to challenge really every area of my life. And I didn't even know what that meant. I can say that now. For those of you that are maybe just race fans and you just came to meet me, when I said God challenged me, I know what that is now, but at the time I just had conviction. I didn't know why, but all of a sudden I was like, started thinking about things that as an 18-year-old you really wouldn't think about. You know, who did I want to be as a man? How did I want to be as a husband, as a father? How did I want to you know, have an influence in my career? And all of a sudden, like, this all came to a crashing halt because this guy asked me, what about you? And my wife and I were invited to go to church by her aunt and uncle. And it wasn't something that I was like, hey, you know, I really feel like God's pursuing me, I need to go to church. It was more like they were going to feed me, so I'll go. And so I sat through this church service, and I didn't have any expectations going there. I wasn't looking for God. I wasn't looking for anything. I just was looking for a free meal afterwards, and we liked hanging out with them, and they were fun to be around. And the pastor was talking about God's grace and forgiveness, and that we can have a free gift, a fresh start, a new beginning, and there was nothing that we could do to earn it. We can't work for it. We can't buy it. And I was like, I don't know what this guy's talking about, but if I can have a clean slate and a fresh start, that's what I want. I want to do that. And you know, that's when my faith journey started, and that was in the middle of 2004. My wife and I, during that time, moved to North Carolina. And that was fresh on our mind, but we didn't really know what to do with it. And we were just, you know, it was just the two of us, no family moving out there. So we found a small local church that was just starting up, and about a church the size of this room, literally. It was in an elementary school with little round tables and lifetime chairs. and there was about 20 of us the first weekend. And keep in mind, we didn't know this. I mean, we saw a flyer for a church when we showed up. We got plugged into a small group and just really dug into God's Word. And for us, for her and I, not having any sort of church background, it was all fresh and all new to us. And it's been an amazing journey since then. We got baptized together. My racing career was progressing through that time, and then I got to a point in 2008 where I got hired by Michael Waltrip Racing, and I was going to race Cup full time, and had a long contract and going to make millions of dollars and all these great things, and that was very short-lived. I only ended up doing about 20 races, and
Michael decided he still wanted to race.
Yeah, there's a lot of moving parts to that, but through the last 4 or 5 years, I haven't always been in the greatest situation racing. I've been in opportunities where I could stay in the sport and it wasn't at the capacity or the level that I wanted to be at from a competition standpoint. But I wouldn't trade those days for the world. I mean, those 3 or 4 years of sort of just struggling in sport, God really just removed a lot of things in my life and shaped and molded me through that time. And it wasn't always fun, but it definitely, looking back now, was worth it.
I've done a lot of research, and I didn't realize how close our stories connect. I was actually at that funeral.
Oh, really?
And Tom's my neighbor.
Oh, really? Wow.
So, wow.
Yeah, so to add to that, since you brought that up, I didn't know that Tom and Ron knew each other. So that was another part that I felt like, well, this is amazing. These two guys that I'm looking up to that are living this godly life, and I didn't even know what that meant, knew each other. And when Tom came up to me after Ron's funeral, I was like, hey, what are you doing here? And he's like, what are you doing here? And I said, well, I worked for Ron, and I did the same thing for Tom as I did for Ron. And they knew each other, but our paths hadn't crossed yet. And so just God aligning all those things, and definitely is a part of that story. So
you talked about the millions and millions of dollars, race car, NASCAR, racing, NASCAR in particular, known for some spectacular crashes. You've been in 2 pretty horrific crashes. We're going to play a video, but let's talk about that first. You walked away from these, obviously.
Yeah.
But I don't even know where to start. I don't know what you want to talk about on those. But.
Yeah, I'll give you a little preview before they show this first one. So, just to let you know, I never wanted to be famous for having a big wreck in NASCAR. That was never my plan. I mean, from the time I was, probably racing go-karts until I made it to NASCAR level, I was fairly cocky, very, very arrogant, had a chip on my shoulder. I literally thought in 2008 I was going to take this startup Cup team and win races and win championships, and nobody knew who I was, but I knew who I was, and I was going to set the world on fire. And then I got to Texas in 2008. This was my second Sprint Cup race, and nobody knew who I was, even though I thought I was a big deal. And I had this horrific crash you guys will see, and that's sort of what I got famous for. The wins didn't come and the championships didn't come, but everybody knows about a Texas crash. And even now, 6 years later, you can't walk 10 feet in the garage without somebody saying, hey, you're that dude that flipped like 15 times, aren't you? And so it's something I'll never let down, but at the same time, it's given me a great opportunity to share my faith, and it's nothing short of miraculous to walk away from this accident that you guys will see, and it's just a part of my story, and I can have fun with it now and laugh, and like I said, it's not what I wanted to get famous for, but it's still a part of my story. So
thanks, Megan.
Whether the team could switch points.
Whoa, guys, whoa, oh, no, oh my gosh. I have never seen anything like that in my life.
he hit that ball.
Oh my gosh.
Michael's moving around in that.
That's 165 miles an hour into that corner, right? Something like that.
Just went straight in.
So at the point of impact, it was,
And that was all.
they have a little recording box, NASCAR does.
Look at that safer barrier right there, how it just crushed all that stuff.
That is good though.
Oh, no,
That means
it's
that
great.
thing moved.
It's great, it's just a...
Did you think it was good?
It's still hard.
And then the flipping helped the car dissipate the remaining energy, parts flying off it. He had madness. And wave to the fans.
My goodness.
Yeah, so it's crazy. Couple things. One is,
That's an understatement.
yeah, it is. One of the things is when I got out and I waved to the crowd, just to let you know, where I wave, there is not a grandstand, a bleacher, or anything. It is a concrete wall. But I was thinking like, okay, I was kind of knocked stupid a little bit, and I was thinking, all right, this is what everybody does when they get out of a crash, right? In NASCAR, they get out and they wave. So I'm waving, there's nobody there. So that's one thing that the video doesn't show, but I remember I still laugh at myself about that. Like, I'm waving to nothing. But to answer your question, NASCAR has these recording boxes, almost like airplanes, where if a crash happens and, this is the only thing that survives. And the box in there recorded the speed and the G-forces and the impact and all that. And at the point I hit the wall, it was 185 miles an hour.
Wow.
And it went from 185 to 0 in 0.02 of a second. And it was over 90 Gs, which for a lot of people that doesn't sound like much, but it's way more than your body should ever sustain. And to walk away with no broken bones and no brain damage and anything like that is amazing.
I'm sorry. You just said no brain damage.
Yeah, well,
You went back in the car.
I had brain damage
Some
before I
people
started.
Just question that a bit.
Well, now they're testing for that. I don't know if you guys follow it, but now they're like, hey, we need to do some concussion testing prior to the concussions to see if you guys are still doing all right. But nothing, like I said, nothing short of miraculous to walk away from an accident like that, and not something that I want to be a highlight of my career, but it's something that is going to forever be a part of it.
So all of you will get to have an autograph from a miracle. I don't even know where to go from this, really, but what's the most exciting part of NASCAR for you overall?
Yeah, I love what I'm doing. There's times that it is a struggle, just like it is in any profession. And, as a competitive, I don't want to call myself an athlete, because as you guys can see, I'm not much of an athlete. But to me, the hardest thing is that I still want to win races, still want to win championships, and it's so hard in this sport. There's only 10 or 12 guys that win every year, and those 10 or 12 guys drive for the 3 or 4 teams that have lifetime contracts with their drivers and their crew chiefs and things like that. So, that's one of the things that I feel like is the difficult part of it. But the part I love about what I do, and the part that I'm passionate about, and I'm still passionate about winning races, but what I'm really passionate about is just the ministry and the platform and the opportunity I have to share my faith. And that's why, I enjoy these partnerships with Caleb and Thrivent. And it's not something where I'm trying to create this niche because I'm this Christian guy and I'm outspoken and I need to have these Christian sponsors, but it's more of, this is what I've always dreamed of, is to be able to have this platform with people that are kingdom-minded and like-minded and be able to grow that and to reach millions of fans and share the love of Christ with them and be able to do that in a way that's God-honoring and do that in a competitive sport like NASCAR and to still win races and sure win championships. So, that part of it I enjoy a lot. There's a lot of ministry that happens on the racetrack. There's a lot of ministry that happens away from the racetrack. And it's really, really where I feel like, that's where I'm supposed to be.
How do you deal with that, be number one? It's all about the winning. There is no parades for number 2 or 2 through 40. How do you deal with that number one mentality of NASCAR and your faith?
Yeah, that's a great question. For me, the biggest thing that I had to realize, and it took me a long time to get to this point, and I still wrestle with, is that you can't allow other people's perception of you or your performance to determine your value. And knowing who I am and what I'm about isn't defined by what people think of my performance or what my performance on the racetrack is, but it's defined by my relationship with Christ. And when I got to that realization that not that I'm not competitive now, I'm just as competitive as I've ever been, but to realize that that's not what defines me. NASCAR is what I do, it's my job, but it's not who I am, and it doesn't define me. It's very easy in this sport to allow your performance to define you, and if you do that, you're always going to have these ups and downs, and they're extreme in our sport. You take a guy like Jeff Gordon that wins all these races and all these championships, and it goes 3 or 4 years and can't hit a lick and is ready to retire, and then this year the car changes and he's winning races and maybe even going to win a championship. And if you allow that sport to define you, it's a very dangerous place to be. And so just being secure in my faith and who I am. And you guys were making a very nice introduction about me. But what I was thinking when I was saying this is that what you don't realize is I'm just a screwed up, messed up dude that loves Jesus. There's nothing different than me than the rest of the world. I'm just a normal guy that has a great opportunity to race in NASCAR, but I don't have it all together. I am a broken, fallen man in a desperate need of a Savior, and that's right where Jesus wants us, is to be humble and to realize that we need Him. And I'm just fortunate that God allows me to have this platform to share my faith.
That's a pretty good answer.
I didn't script that either.
You mentioned earlier the millions and millions. It's kind of like the Hollywood version of NASCAR. And the perception, real or not, that drivers make millions and millions and millions of dollars. Some obviously do, and kind of live an extravagant lifestyle. Thrivent, who is the sponsor of today's event, and your car as well. I don't know of any other financial institution that I have been associated with that their motto is live generously.
Yeah.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, it is awesome. And for me, this is really cool because obviously we're here at a Thrivent event, and I'd love to tell you all these great things, but the reality is that Thrivent lines up with who I am and what I'm about, and they line up with our race team and what we're about. And that's why it's such a great partnership, because this is our opportunity to introduce Christians to not only just a smarter way of living, but a better way of living, and there's a lot of freedom in that. And so for me, when Thrivent came on board, I was like, this is awesome. I have Caleb, which I've been a big supporter of for a long time.
I don't work at Caleb.
Yeah,
just saying.
We're clear. This is an interesting dynamic.
But I know a lot of the Caleb guys. I've been doing this, for 35 years. I was around before Caleb, so it's okay.
Yeah,
listen to Caleb.
Yeah, good. But let's get back. I'm digressing here. So millions of dollars. Yes, there's a lot of drivers that make millions of dollars. I'm not one of them. I haven't been one of them. When I did have a good contract with Michael Waltrip Racing in 2008, I had a kind of a unique twist. And my unique twist was before I got into NASCAR, I ran in the ARCA Series. You guys familiar with the ARCA Series? It's kind of like a feeder into NASCAR. And I had an investor who gave me $1.5 million to go do that. And part of this investment was that I was going to pay him back when I made it big time. And who would have ever thought that would have? So that first year when I made significant money driving for Michael Waltrip Racing, I gave it all back to him because that was our deal. Is he got me to that point and I paid him back. Man, did I never imagine the next year the market would crash and the race teams were closing teams down and sponsorship went away, and I never saw any kind of money like that ever again. But for us, and when I mean us, for my family and I, and my wife and I, is I'm thankful to be driving a NASCAR. I'm thankful to make what I make. I do not make what the other guys make, but in the world scheme of things, I'm a very rich man. And if you're sitting in this room, you're a rich man, a rich woman, because there's people around the world that can't get clean water. So I'm not diluting the fact that I'm in a great sport and I get paid a lot of money to drive a race car, but for me, that's just another opportunity to give and to share. And I feel like that, just like Thrivent does, that it's not my money, that it's God allowing us to take part in what He's given us. And I hold very loosely to it because it's not mine. And there's a lot of freedom in that when you can live and give generously. And Thrivent is a great partner. Not only are they doing a great work inside of communities around the world, we have partners from Samaritan's Purse, we have partners from Habitat for Humanity here this weekend. But really importantly, they're giving back to their churches and their communities, and they're making a difference in those communities. And they're helping guys like me that aren't financially savvy to set up some plans for my family and for their family to come. And so they're doing a lot of cool things, and thankful for them being part of our program.
Michael, I just want to finish up with one more question that kind of ties into the whole relationship with Thrivent as well. And that is, obviously, you want to have experts on your team, right? I mean, you don't, how well would the car do if you were in charge of, scoping the engine and getting it tuned?
Well, the car wouldn't do well with me working on any other area other than what I'm doing.
So you need an expert
Yeah, for sure.
to do that.
Absolutely. And the thing about our sport is you got to make sure that you're doing the right job. The right person's doing the right job. You know, your jackmen. You guys seen the jackmen for our sport? They're usually like 230 pounds.
Former linebacker.
Yeah, they're 6'3" because all they have to do is get that car in the air. They're not the guy you want changing your tires because them running around the car and hitting 5 lugs is probably going to take them 3 or 4 minutes. So my point of that is it takes a whole team to do those pit stops, and you don't want your jackman changing your tires. And it's the same thing with everything we do. Is just you want people that are experts in those areas that know their profession and have honed that craft. And you definitely don't want me working on any area of the race car.
So your pit time would go a little longer if you had to put your own gas in, is that what you're saying?
I don't even think I'd get out to do it.
All right, we're going to open it up for questions. Peter's going to come back, and I'm going to video it too. That's my portion.
Yeah, thank you.
And there's one more video, and then we'll have a transition to the back, but Peter will take care of that. Oh, we've got giveaway. I'm not going to get to do the giveaway? Man,
I'll let you
that's
know.
okay. No, that's okay. That's okay.
Dude, fine.
I thought I was going to give away the tickets, because then I'm loved. You are loved, Tom.
I do want to, before the video, Mike, would you introduce your team?
My team that's here?
Yeah, that's the guys in the back, if they'd come up, and your father-in-law.
Sure.
Yeah, have them come
All
up
right.
and introduce them. Tell us what they do
Okay,
for you
so
and how they make you
see,
successful.
this is an opportunity to roast somebody,
There you go.
which I would normally use, but
Careful.
yeah, you got to be careful because a lot of these people.
Yeah, he's
pay
probably
my
tunes your
bills.
engine, right?
Yeah,
Careful.
no. To my right here, Jeremy Lang. He is in charge of everything that doesn't go on the race car except for our sponsors. So all your front office, administrative, and also making sure that we have the funds to go racing. He's sort of our team, I would call him our team manager, controller. So anything that involves our race team that doesn't involve him bolting a part onto the race car, Jeremy handles. And to my left is Caleb. Caleb is in, what's that? You're looking for Michael? That's a great opportunity to roast him. He's not here and he's gone. We could say he's at the food line. We could say anything. Caleb is, I don't know what his official title is, but I'll just give you the redneck version of his title, is that he's a part of developing new relationships for our race team, and he's also generating sponsor leads and building those relationships, and handles a lot of the things that the follow-up and when we have special guests. So when Thrivent members come, or Thrivent associates come, or Caleb people come, Caleb's the follow-up and make sure they had a great time and get the photos and all those things. But this guy works night and day trying to generate new leads and new opportunities for our race team, and he's a great dude. So, and Michael, we call him LC, and we won't tell him why. I don't think he knows why, but Michael is Bob and Sharon Leavine, not Leavine, Leavine's grandson. The Leavines own our race team, LFR. They're based out of Texas, and their parent company, WRL, is a commercial construction company, and they build a lot of schools and hospitals and sort of that kind of thing. Churches, yep. And Michael is going to be our boss in the next 10 or 15 years, but Jeremy and I are trying to make that a slow transition as possible.
Nice.
And to my far right is Steve Soika, and he is my father-in-law. He's also the man that first taught me how to shoot a gun and to go hunting, which I really enjoy, and I killed my first buck this week. But a great man of faith and an elder at his church. Don't talk about the multiples. It's illegal. And so, yes, this
Was
is...
that here in Arizona?
No, in Texas. It's a long story. You guys want to hear it?
Sure.
Okay, so are there any animals lovers in here that don't like hunting? Because I don't want to offend you. Okay, good. We got the right group. So one of our sponsors, TWD, Tommy Williams Drywall, they have a ranch in Texas, and so Wally, our crew chief, who's not here, and Jeremy and I had the opportunity to go out there this week, and we went out the first morning. It's the first weekend of gun season, so we're a few days behind, and this is a great opportunity, a 3-day hunt. It's one of those things where you probably want to take your time, make sure you see the deer that you want. You're going to have lots of opportunities. Sun came up about 6. Around 6:30, I've already shot 2 deers. And so I was a little trigger happy. I was the first guy on the trigger. And I got 2 bucks, which I thought was legal. I thought I had done this right, but there's a small little regulation in there that I didn't read, I guess, and I was only allowed one, so one of our friends there gladly gave me his tag because I got a monster deer and we weren't going to give it back. I don't know if you know, but you can't give them back. So we had a lot of fun.
They're dead.
Yeah, they're dead. But yeah, it is teamwork, and we have a great team. We're small, just to let you guys know.
Yeah, how many people on the team?
Jeremy knows the official number. I say 12 to 15, 13. See, I was right in the middle there. Just depends on who we fire this week. But no, we're a small team. We have just a handful of us compared to what we're racing against. So, you'll see us this weekend. We qualified 31st. I don't want to burst your bubble, but we're going to race somewhere between 23rd and 29th tomorrow. And that is high fives. That's like going to victory lane. And the reason it is because we have 13 people going up against a team that has 600, and a team that has 500, and a team that has $300 or $400 million in sponsorship. And we're just a small team, but we're doing big things in a big sport with very little. And so, that's a hard part of racing when somebody's like, hey, how's your car? And I'm like, great. They're like, well, where do you think you're gonna run? I'm like, 30th. They go, what? What are you talking about? It can't be great, it's gotta be horrible. But for us, we're building, we're growing. We have the things in place to grow our program. And unlike any other sport that I told you guys about, the difference between us being 25th and 20th is just more people, more funds to do it, and growing and building and engineering and more cars and more motors and all those things. So, we're thankful to be where we're at, but we're not content. And we are content, but we're not complacent. We're going to keep pushing forward and keep growing our team and our race program. It's taking baby steps. We'd all like to run, but right now it's just baby steps.
So tell us a little bit about the drama that happened last week in Texas. Not to get names, but
yeah,
I saw it in the news. We all saw it in the news, and curious. What's your perspective?
So one of the drama is that after the race, we all pull to the haulers and we get out. Well, in Texas, I don't know if you guys see, but they have what is called a big hoss. It's the biggest TV in the world. I don't know what it is, right? Texas, everything's bigger, right? So they have this huge TV. Well, all of us are pulling to our trailers and then we see a fight break out, right? And obviously we're not in it. So everybody stops in their race car and we're all watching this TV with wondering like, hey, why isn't anybody moving here? But what it is our sport, like I said, it's intense. And right now with this new format, you have a one bad race and you're sort of out of the chase. And so there's a lot on the line and there's a tremendous amount of pressure. And I think you're just seeing that build and you're seeing people, upset.
Just like any
sport. And that's the thing is, people look at NASCAR a little bit differently than other sports. NASCAR is a physical sport, whether people like it or not. But only in the last 5 or 6 years have all the drivers become ultra sensitive. But when Dale Earnhardt Sr. was around, he would gladly move you to win a race, and that was just a part of it. And if you saw him again, you'd gladly move him back, and you didn't have to fight afterwards. You just raced your guts out, and if you got into somebody, you did.